This is it, everyone. Samsung's best flagship for 2022, the S22 Ultra. So, it has one of the best displays, one of the best cameras, and the best hardware. A Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and 256 gigs of storage. But does this mean it gets to be a very competent gaming phone? Today we're gonna find out. It is I, ZenTheGeek. Sit back, relax, and watch me game. I will be playing a couple of titles that I actually do play. So, everyone now knows I'm a weeb. So I'm just currently playing Superstring Dimension in Honkai Impact, which is like a weekly ranked. And you can see that I'm almost getting about, low high 30s to mid 40s to almost 50 frames per second, considering there's a lot going on the screen. And yeah, the GPU is almost to 100 at some point. See, got 89. And for the CPU, it's just hanging about 40%, which is not too bad. Temperatures are still okay at about 40 degrees Celsius. So I wouldn't be too worried about the heat right now because it doesn't feel that toasty just yet. Okay, so it's been a while. We're seeing 42 degrees and we're still averaging about 40s in terms of frames per second, and GPU is almost at an all-time high. See, it has just reached 100 and it's a little crazy right now in the game. CPU load is still loyally around in the 40s, which is not too shabby. But the GPU load is pretty high. But with all things considered, I have already maxed out all possible graphics settings, so this is kind of expected. Okay, next up we have Call of Duty Mobile. And let's go and take a look at the graphics settings real quick. I've set it to very high, max frame rates, and enabled almost everything. I put God rays, no anti-aliasing. So let's go and find a match if people still do play this game. Oh my goodness, that was quick. So now it's still maintaining at 42 degrees, 60 frames per second. This is a very good outlook because this shows that the developers did optimize this, but unfortunately the developers have not optimized the game to allow higher frames per second because, the Galaxy S22 Ultra's display goes up to 120 Hz. And the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 may be a good chipset, but it does run a little hot now. Even though it feels like 42 degrees, my hand is placed firmly at the bottom left of the device. And it's starting to feel a little toasty. See, it went up by 1 degree at 43 right now. And I still don't feel it's that uncomfortable, but eventually it could go to 44, 43. But at least we're getting steady frames per second. Did I just destroy my own? I destroyed my own helicopter. So let's move on to the next game. I somehow got number 1. And it's already as difficult as it is just playing this while standing up in an awkward position. Either I'm really good or everyone else is just terrible. I'd like to think that everyone else is terrible. I should be getting destroyed. Are you ready for some action? Cookie Run action. Cookie Run Kingdom is actually one of my most favorite games. It's like a 2.5D game that somehow is really demanding. We are just gonna do something simple like bounties, and it's gonna be fighting on automatic. My team is obscenely overpowered for this. And again, I've set everything to max, going for 60 FPS, but you can see that we're just getting about, wow, look at that throttling and frame drop. Well, in certain high effects fights, we are definitely getting about high 20s to mid 30s, but when nothing much is going on, look, it's still able to climb up to 60, even though there is some action going on. But just now it was crazy. When my Seafaring cookie activates her tide powers, the screen just kind of stutters for a little bit. See, when there's nothing much going on, you can definitely get 60 FPS, but just now, like I said earlier, when there's too much effects going on, we can see at the high 20s to like mid 30s in FPS, and the game is playing at 43 degrees, which is, you know, average for what it is right now. And it is getting a little bit toasty and uncomfortable, especially here, which is where the chip is. So that's what I've come to expect. So now I'm just back at my base, which is massive. So you can definitely see about 30 frames when you get in there, and the GPU load is kind of all over the place. Yeah, as promised. Frame rates at 60, resolution is high, skill effects are on. No vibration. Alright, let's move to one last game, which everybody kind of wants to do if they want to do a video game test. Well, you guessed it. Trash AI Genshin Impact. So as you can see... Oh my goodness. Michael Bay, is that you? Genshin Impact will probably average about high 30s to mid 40s on a good day. And now it's 44 degrees, which is starting to be really more than just toasty, more than friends, that kind of thing. And don't worry, it's because I have set everything to maximum. Let me show you. Graphics. See, it says overclocked. Everything is set to highest, with the highest FPS being 60. Even motion blur is on high, not even extreme. And we have anti-aliasing on, high crowd density, and whatnot. This means there is room for better frames if you intend to use this phone to play Genshin Impact. And I have to give my recommendation that if you want to play Genshin Impact comfortably on an S22 Ultra, I suggest you tune down on anti-aliasing, crowd density, set that to medium, and overall level of detail, play at a steady medium instead. You know, it's not really a race. A game like this doesn't truly need you to have really high frames per second, like 144. But, you know, it'll be good to have a good 60 to have an enjoyable time. But again, the temperature is kind of high at 44 degrees when you set to maximum settings. Alright, and that's about it for my phone test for the S22 Ultra when it comes to gaming. So any final words? I have to say that the highest temperature I've actually gotten was from Genshin Impact, 44 degrees, and in the high 30s to mid 40s of frames per second. Sometimes you get an occasional 50 when nothing much is going on. But you see, this is the thing about the S22 Ultra. Even though it is Samsung's flagship, it is the best that they have right now. They have the best chipset, as in the latest. There's 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage. Yeah, we would say that that's enough to play some games, but right now developers aren't, you know, biting in when it comes to optimizing their titles to have higher frame rates. And with the whole fiasco, you know, about game optimization system, it's changed. This is now April 2022. There's been a software update which I've already installed, and everything runs just as smooth. It's just that, you know, when you want higher frames, your phone temperature tends to go up. So this is kind of like a trade-off that you must consider. Thank you guys for watching. I'm ZenTheGeek. I'll see you guys in the next video.